All right, what's up, guys? The Strong Boys 19 here. Welcome back for me to do another live stream. As per usual, it is going to be a big chill out vibe with albums that I've purchased both on CD and on vinyl, as I have been purchasing a few more albums to grow the collection. I hope you guys are doing very well in yourselves. And I'm just going to check if everything is going to be all good to go. Um, Apologies for the way I look. I just got out of the shower, so I just did my best to keep my hair in good check. I hope the sound's all right as well. Just going to check. Just going to check. Yeah, it is. All right. I'm going to start off with the records first. To the person who did give the stream a thumbs up before I even started the go live moment of pressing, thank you very much, whoever you are. So, recently I have been to a record fair for the first time in a really long while. And I believe I think over 6 months since that I have last been to a record fair. I went inside the Old Crown, which is the oldest pub in the history of Birmingham. And it is insane to think that. But when I went inside, the record fair was the other side of the location, and there was music blasting through the speakers, just random hits. And obviously, there's a lot of people with their own tables selling records. And I decided not to go, just completely overboard with the albums that I decided to collect. There's been many albums that I have been including to my wish list, but with these, I just had to grab them. So the first one is the self-titled and only debut album from Liverpool band the Lars. This is a record that, in my opinion, is another one of the must-have records. For some of you guys who are fans of the 90s rock scene or even the Britpop period, this album was very influential for some of the iconic Britpop musicians involving Noel Gallagher, as it was one of his all-time favorite albums. And another fact about this album, Eric Clapton did like this album when it came out. The history behind this album has just been nothing but difficulty and a lot of process through the record label of Go Discs, and especially with the madman that is Lee Mavers. But anyways, this is as I said, the only album. It's not an original. It's from 2016, a Polydor reissue. So this side shows the lyrics, and the other side is just a random collage of the band. The record itself, I haven't played this yet, but I did check it out on YouTube, and I was really, really surprised that it did sound just as brilliant. And I knew that it was just going to be a great record. The most popular last song is There She Goes, which is a really catchy, jolly, poppy type of style song. And the other tracks on this are excellent. My favorite song from the Lars is the final song, which is Looking Glass. This album was produced by Steve Lillywhite, who went on to produce records for multiple artists. But this is a fantastic record. 35 minutes of some of my new favorite albums of all time. Very much this really effective and catchy and strong amounts of acoustic to rocky detail. And Liverpool is a great place to go, by the way. So that is the only album by the Lars that's now added to the collection. The next one, I really wanted to purchase this for some time, and I'm glad that I did, because this is another addition to my Pink Floyd collection. The Final Cut. I was really happy that I did pick this up. And I have defended this album over time, but with my original review of this was one of my very least favorites. But when I was diving into this record, it does make so much more sense of why the album had to be made this way. And I believe that this is an original pressing. The state of the gatefold sleeve to the packaging is excellent. And the record does get really crackly, but there was no problems with any jumps or skips. So the listening experience of this album is still brilliant. So the record is in pretty strong shape. The Final Cut is one of those later Pink Floyd albums which took me so much of the patience and yet alone the understanding. But once I got this album, I really got to appreciate it so much better. I know that this album still gets a lot of divided responses, and some say that this is still one of the worst Pink Floyd albums, or some Floyd fans will say otherwise and say that this is one of the masterpieces. This album could have been better than The Wall, in my opinion, but since that The Wall is, to me, a stronger listening and yet an as brilliant experience, I think The Final Cut is the same points of view now that I think about this record. This pressing, by the way, does not have the track When Tigers Broke Free, which was originally added for the soundtrack to The Wall of the film, The Wall. And it is still a really good song, but I prefer to listen to the album without that song, because in my opinion it fits better without adding Where Tigers Broke Free in this track listing. So, brilliant record, and I am pleased to add it with the rest of the discography. And speaking of the Endless River, now that I think about it, I would probably be not interested to purchase the vinyl pressing of the album, because when I looked at it, there's some used space for the music, but there's a lot more unused space, just more look of the wax than the pressed music through the double album pressing, and that is really bad in my opinion. Next record, this is a group that a lot of people have been giving a lot of praise for. I have heard about this group before, but when I bought this album, I wanted to check this out as it was one of those wish list selected albums. Boards of Canada, Tomorrow's Harvest. As that I'm a big fan of ambient music and electronic music, I did not expect this to be this brilliant. It's just a great album. Double album pressing, and this came out from the last decade, released on the Warp label. I should have checked out Boards of Canada from the last period of listening to music back in 10 years back. because this was known as one of the favorite albums from the last decade. It's a really strong record. Now that I would like to collect some more of this band's stuff. It's ambient, it's electronic, and it does have that IDM style of that type of music. But once I hear these tracks from front to back, beginning to end, it just gets better every time I would be playing this record. This is amazing. Next album, Ozzy Osbourne, Diary of a Madman. This is my favorite Ozzy Osbourne album, and so pleased to add this to the collection. I also spotted Blizzard of Oz, but I didn't get it because I think this album knocks Blizzard of Oz through the roof, out of the way. I mean, Blizzard of Oz is a really good album, but I think the guitar tone is stronger, the songwriting is better, and it's, to me, one of the classics in terms of just solo artists. And this is the Jet Records pressing. I am stoked to revisit this album. And when it comes to some of the early Ozzy stuff, they are better. And with what Ozzy tries with his latest stuff, post No More Tears, he does have a few handful of tracks that I still do enjoy quite a lot. But in terms of the whole album's side of his later period of music, it's just not as strong. And they just, in my opinion, just don't age so well. Whereas with albums like this one absolutely is dynamite. So glad to put this into the collection of my records. And speaking of Ozzy, back to Black Sabbath once again, but this is through the Dio era, Live Evil. Another one for my Black Sabbath collection. This is, I think, an original pressing, double album, gatefold sleeve, opens like this. And I still need to buy, by the way, the 40th anniversary box set of this fantastic, very, very good live concert. Released through the Vertigo label. And this artwork is one of my favorites. I love the idea of having these symbols, if you like to call them that, that depicts the sign of the songs, each song that they do, and the track listing through this period, before Dio and Vinny were out of Black Sabbath, is a strong selection of songs. Not my favorite live album from Black Sabbath, but without a doubt, it's still a very, very good live recording. Last one, next record for my Pink Floyd collection. I didn't think about purchasing online the original pressing of this album because I was really pleased with the total amount of a difference in terms of sound in the remix direction. A Momentary Lapse of Reason. I did see this pressing occasionally at HMV, and they were selling this with ridiculous amounts of money. But thankfully, this costed just 25 quid. Just like with the Lars remaster that I've shown earlier. I've played this album a few nights ago. Not a strong record, but I still defend it as a listenable Pink Floyd record. The first half of this album I do enjoy a lot more. This is the double vinyl pressing on the 45 RPM speed version. And what is also really cool is it contains a pretty thick booklet, which features the look of the artwork to different shots for each of the lyrics, and it's a much better sound than the original version of this record. It's also a big plus that they decide to display other original ideas of the album artwork. So, A Momentary Lapse of Reason, to me, does have a lot of enjoyable moments. But not all of it, to me, is as one of these later, higher favourites. This was almost in my top 10 for those of you guys who did see my re-ranking of Pink Floyd's discography. And I would definitely seek this one out if you haven't checked this out already. It doesn't matter what you think of the record. Check this version out if you want to hear, for me, a better tonality and a different mix than just listening to the original pressing. So that is the 2019 remix version of A Momentary Lapse of Reason. Next up is the CD part. Billy Bishop, what time is it in the UK right now? When I get up in the morning, it's noon or afternoon in the UK from where you live, Greg. It is nearly 7:20 in the evening, Billy. I hope you are doing well. And by the way, I have not forgotten at all your request that you've messaged me about to do a list of my 10 favourite metal vocalists. I don't think that my list is going to be so predictable. It's going to be quite different. Because when I think about vocalists, it depends who I appreciate the most. And yet there are just a lot of amazing vocalists with their own craft and passion. But I will say this, that it may not be, so obvious of a list. But I will keep that in mind. I will do that video for you, Bishop. Zach, what's going on, mate? I hope you are doing okay. By the way, did you pass the job interview that you told me about on Instagram? What's been going on before and after that moment? Much love to you, mate. For those of you who have just tuned in, if you don't know who Zach D Productions is, be sure to subscribe to his channel. He's another music fan like myself, and he does like his own taste in movies. So check out his content and subscribe. Okay, so that's the records part out of the way. Let's go over to the CDs. The first one is the only album from this legendary guitarist. This is a 2018 re-release through the Manifesto label. Alan Holdsworth, Secrets. This is one of the greatest jazz fusion albums of all time. But not only that, you need to get into Alan Holdsworth if you want to hear some of the most beautiful, emotional, and just gigantic wizardry through the electric guitar. Alan Holdsworth, bless him, is one of the best. Secrets is my favourite Alan Holdsworth album, but he has done a big bunch of albums. Metal Fatigue, which is fantastic, and Sand is very, very good. Wardenclyffe Tower is one of my most favourites. I think Jazz Fusion has to be, connected with Alan Holdsworth's music as one of the must-hear moments. We all know about Miles Davis to Herbie Hancock, Chick Corea, the Mahavishnu Orchestra, John McLaughlin. But with Alan Holdsworth, this is one of those moments in guitar playing history that you need to discover. Must-hear guitarist. One of my favorites of all time. The next 7 are from a band that I've just mentioned from my last video that I really got to absolutely love more and more. I already have loved a lot of this band's sound, but in terms of going into the discography, this band is just to me one of the other essential moments in progressive rock history, and that band is the Moody Blues. Days of Future Past, which is a record that is also a must-buy if you really want to check out something as beautiful, magical, and a pinnacle moment from late 60s experimenting. This is, for me, one of the early birth moments of progressive rock. It's a lot of symphonic classical moments with strings to brass, flute, but with the Moody Blues together with the London Festival Orchestra. It's majestic. Just my favorite Moody Blues album. The other 6, along with this, I have bought from an eBay seller, and the condition of these albums are just perfect. The next album, which is one of my high favorites, is In Search of the Lost Chord. Some fans say that this is the favorite, besides Days of Future Past. Pretty psychedelic in moments as well. These remasters are from 2008 with extended bonus tracks and more liner notes and information, photography of the band as well. Really strong album. The next one is another one of my favorites, On the Threshold of a Dream. The melodies, the joyful and as beautiful pieces of vocal harmony to musicianship, some of the best came from this band. One of my most favorites. And same goes with this one. To Our Children's Children's Children. Love this album straight away. To me, this is near perfect. One of my most favorite Moody Blues albums. The next one, which is really underrated, A Question of Balance. They are another perfect example with some stunning detail and presentable artworks. A Question of Balance, for some Moody fans say that this is one of the lesser loved but still really good ones. This is one of my favorites too. The next album, I have bought this on vinyl along with On the Threshold of a Dream, to Days of Future Past, and In Search of the Lost Chord, but I haven't played this yet. Every Good Boy Deserves Favor. Haven't played this one yet, but I am looking forward to it. And the last one is Seventh Sojourn. I know that some of the other fans of this band say that this is a classic. This one is really, really good too. But the other 5 before these 2, the other 5 are my top 5 Moody Blues albums at the moment. And they are another band from Birmingham. A really important, masterful, and gorgeous, stunning band. I did see a lot of the comments, and I will go through each and every single one of them. I haven't forgot you guys. I didn't get anything back, Zach says. I have to go back for a second interview at some point. Thanks for the shout out. No worries, Zach. And I do hope that you will get the job, whatever it is. Mark, hey, are there any Bob Dylan albums you haven't heard? I haven't heard all of Bob Dylan's albums. I didn't buy his latest recording because a lot of them are just re-recordings or just newer versions of many classic songs. I didn't go through Together Through Life yet. Christmas in the Heart, I haven't checked that one out. But I have heard pretty much a lot of Dylan's stuff. Pecky Peck, what's up, dude? It's been a while since I've last seen you here, either through one of my videos or on a live stream. Hope you and your other half and your son are doing great. Midnight Social, greetings, mate. Have you heard Jazz Sabbath? It's jazz versions of Sabbath songs. No, I haven't. I'll have to dig deep into that style. As much as I love jazz and Black Sabbath, that just sounds like a pretty cool combination. Zach again, I'll be honest, I don't think I've picked up a CD since July. It's never too late to pick up anything. He also says, what would you say is your album of the year so far? I haven't really decided yet. I think it's probably, for now, either Model Actress with Dog's Body or maybe Periphery 5's Periphery with 5, Gent is not a genre. That's what it's meant to say. Although Depeche Mode's new album is one of the best of the year, in my opinion. I think those are my top 3. But I will discover many other albums because I haven't reviewed them, but I have been checking a lot more stuff out outside of making videos. Excuse me. Killed by Death TV. Please don't say you've bought loads of tapes. Tapes suck. No, I haven't. I haven't bought tapes. You mean cassette tapes? I have a few, but I personally don't play them because they are really fragile, and I think that they are one of the weaker physical media products. I still think they are pretty interesting to have, but I think vinyl is the best, as well as CD. Which Moody Blues album has Nights in White Satin on it? I don't remember. Days of Future Past. It's not just that song, Billy. You need to discover a lot more from that band. It's a classic song, yeah, but there are other stunning cuts from their repertoire. You talk my sense, man. I guess I do. Killed by Death. Did you like Rough and Rowdy Ways? Sometime could you do a live album reaction, possibly to Together Through Life? Either that live reaction or an album review, Mark. I have reviewed Rough and Rowdy Ways, and it is a very, very good Bob Dylan album. It's one of his best in a long time. Same goes with Tempest as well. But I haven't forgotten your request. I will get to Bob Dylan, although it has been, a long time since I've listened back to Dylan's stuff. I really liked Seven Dust's newest album. I don't mind Seven Dust, but they're not the type of band that I would listen to. Not that they're a bad band or anything. Blackwater Rust. Great to see you as always. How are you doing? Going through the Iron Maiden discog, the Book of Souls is a grower. The Book of Souls is one of my favorites. It's an amazing Iron Maiden album. It is better than Senjutsu. Midnight Social again. I might look into the Moody Blues. I've been looking into discovering some new music. The Moody Blues were a Birmingham-based progressive rock, folky style band, but they are so worth your time. And yeah, we know about the obvious progressive rock giants, but the Moody Blues is one of them, 100%. So don't miss out on those guys. Zach, I never had an interest in cassette tapes, always preferred CD, and I had a vinyl phase a few years ago. That's fair enough. Billy again, CD is my preferred format. Oh, says it to Zach, okay. Sedition through Scorns, how's it going, Jake? Greetings, Greg and company. Hope you all stay hydrated during these awful weather conditions and listen to some band's music. Yes, much love to you, by the way. The last thing that I have got to show after the records and the CDs, this is a book, a recently released book through one of my favorite bass players and lyricists of all time, Geezer Butler's newly made biography, Into the Void. And I only read the first chapter, so there's still a lot to go into. But for those who have got this, let me know what you think of this. It's a really good, fascinating part to not only admire the musician for the talents, but to go back into how he describes his own time through the past and go into various descriptions and details around his career. So I have read the first chapter from his upbringing to his big support for Aston Villa and turning into religion, I think. I think that's where I am going to go through. But I am really glad to have this, because when it came out, it was a book that I wanted to collect. I still need to listen to the audiobook version of Dave Grohl's The Storyteller, and I'll have to finish through Tony McCarroll's book about his time with Oasis, and I need to come back to that book of War and Peace, The Stone Roses by Simon Spence. But yeah, another Black Sabbath related item for the Sabbath collection. Excuse me. Musically, lately, I've been listening back to Frank Sinatra, and I've played In the Wee Small Hours a few times, and it is still one of the perfect examples through an early concept album direction in art, and it's one of those powerfully emotional and yet vulnerable soul sounding records. I do love Sinatra myself. My favorite Frank Sinatra record is Come Fly With Me, but like with In the Wee Small Hours, Only the Lonely is another really strong album. So I haven't mentioned Frank Sinatra a lot on this channel until this point, because besides that, there are other vocalists through different bands that I do love. Frank Sinatra is one of my other favorite vocalists of all time. Blackwater Rust, CD are what I go for the most, but I have a few vinyls for Jethro Tull, Johnny Cash and Led Zeppelin. Excellent selection, Blackwater. Zach, what did you think of Yes's newest album? I think it's just okay, not much to praise. To be honest, guys, I have got to say I am moving on from Yes. Yes are still one of my favorite bands, but after reviewing and talking about The Quest as one of my disappointments when it came out, the attraction and the the listening to this current period of the band had totally lost its balance, and the the choice of even listening to newer stuff from this band anymore. And the band is still Yes, but they are one of those that do need to retire and pack it in at some point. Especially like with bands that have keep trying to, you know, be workaholics and to, make a full name of themselves, but their relevance have been decreasing, and yet at the same time they were still one of the biggest bands from previous decades, like Motley Crue being a huge example. Um, so yeah, Yes are still one of my favorite bands in progressive rock, but it's the state that it's currently in has been very pedestrian and safe. It just reached its breaking point that it's too much to cope. Um, oh, and Genesis, I think too. About the records. Which period, by the way, Blackwater? The Peter Gabriel prog stuff or the later Phil Collins stuff? Sedition Again, I'm doing it okay myself. I'm still having a hard time right now after my departure from the site I've contributed in for almost 9 years, and I'm trying to go back to my roots, how I started originally. You will get back up on your feet, Jake. Can we send some love and support for Sedition Through Scorns in the chat? Because not only that he is a very passionate music fan, we all have to go through who we are as people into the mental health of our minds. And obviously, not all of us do suffer with it, but it's always appreciative to look out to each other and to do what you can to help others who are in a big yet deeper thought in negativity around themselves. And even though it's something so simple to share the support, it actually does show your proper and better view to look out for people who need help and reaching out for. So send the love for Sedition Through Scorns in the chat, please. Yes does need to hang it up. I'm not going to lie. I do agree, Zach. And you guys know my reasons why about the state of the band I've just addressed. It doesn't matter that they are still relevant and as influential. And it's awesome that Yes are one of those bands. But in terms of the state and the ongoing direction, there just has to be a moment when you just can't expect everything so predictable. You can't have everything that you wanted to repeat itself like what bands used to do that has been, in your opinion, some of your favorite music of all time. And it's unfortunate that even with age, that it does get very difficult to accept the choices that they want to have. But at least that they are still musicians. It just depends around the moment when you would be still supporting the artists or bands, but with choices that you may either agree with or not agree with. You may still like to listen to the music, but in terms of where the time goes forward through these bands, not everything is just going to be all hunky-dory. Be mindful and wise. I finally made it to the stream, and it's also really cool to see you once again. One of the other regular folks, alongside with a lot of you guys. Billy Bishop again. Frank Sinatra's song Love and Marriage is the theme song from the TV sitcom Married with Children with Al Bundy and company. Speaking of Frank Sinatra himself. That's pretty cool. I'm not a big historian around Sinatra because I'm just, interested into what he used to do as a really important and relevant icon for music. I believe I'm following him on Instagram. You're following Sedition Through Scorns on Instagram, Zach. That's awesome. Send the support and love for Sedition Through Scorns in the chat. Or you can message him on Instagram because it'll mean the world to him. We need to protect ourselves from the obstacles, but we can always do our best to help each other. It does not hurt. It only takes either seconds or a few minutes to get somebody as comfortable and they are loved and important in this planet. Blackwater Rust again. I'm doing good. Great to hear. I'm just chilling in my lunch break. Mindful 28. Be mindful and wise. Are you familiar with Sigur Rós? Yes, I have heard of the band name, and some of their albums are on my wish list that I would like to collect to build my collection. Zach again. Do you like the bands Live and or Bush? I've never heard of those bands yet, Zach. What genre are these guys? Just a message saying, hey, hope you're holding up well would help. Yes, that's another thing that, I don't see a lot of people would be reaching out to other people. Even though that these motivational, supportive messages, can be very predictable, but there's more of this philosophy that it does contain a bigger meaning why people would want to look after each other and themselves. And a big sentence that I really do like is a bad day does not equal a bad life. That is the truth. We all go through tough shit, but at the same time, no matter how much time that we all have, it does not hurt to just, do your best. Do everything that you want to do that makes you be you. Mindful 28 again. Slipknot's Iowa just turned 22 yesterday. Yes, I have heard about it. And that's a milestone and a half. And today is the 29th anniversary for Oasis's Definitely Maybe. It's still such a heavy and dark album, and it is one of the best in the modern era of the genre and through metal history. Zach D again. They are alternative rock. They say Bush is grunge. I can kind of see it, but I don't know. Okay, that sounds pretty promising. Midnight Social, I'm loving the new Alice Cooper album. I'm not a fan of Alice Cooper's music, but I do have a lot of the support for who he is, and with his own, I would say, his own vision into music. And recently there's been some allegations around him, but I don't want to go into noise like that because, as I think Alice Cooper, in my opinion, is a very talented musician, I think he's still a cool guy, you know? Billy again, do you have any Cradle of Filth albums on CD, Greg? I know you have Midian by them, but I don't know what else you have by Cradle of Filth. I don't have any Cradle of Filth other than Midian. Midian's just over here, which I need to reorganize alphabetically my CDs and records. But yeah, Cradle of Filth are a band that I always really liked, but I haven't collected their stuff yet. Everyone has bad days or even weeks. That is true, but there's a lot of time that there's got to be some points that you have to do what you can to change yourself. And if you are still struggling, why not just reach out to people who will be always on your side, your friends or your family, but you need to keep an eye on yourself. And it's not just about the moody and negative state through some of your minds, guys, like with Jake and Zach, but it's never apologetic to feel negative, to feel down on what's been troubling you. But bad days are moments when something happens that could affect your mind physically and emotionally, but you can have a lot of your own time in your world to try new activities, go out and, do some walk around the park or where you live, your local park, or motivate yourself to do anything new, like working out or to socialize, and maybe try some yoga or meditation. These are very simple things, but they do have their own important facts to really think about and to check the mind through your own system and the mental health stages. New Cryptopsy album comes out next month. Are you looking forward to it? Yes, I am. Mindful28. Cryptopsy is one of my favorite bands, and I actually have not reviewed the rest of their albums because I stopped reviewing Cryptopsy's albums after Whisper Supremacy. So I will review And Then You'll Beg, Once Was Not the Unspoken King, and I have already reviewed the self-titled when it came out, but I will dive into the new album. Zach D Productions, my mental health was actually really bad a few months ago, and it led me to calling a crisis hotline. Fucking hell, mate. See, this is what I like to hear and to look at. Midnight Social, hope you're doing better, Zach. I appreciate your YouTube stuff too, my friend. I am for the most part, says Zach. You know what, guys? I would just want to send the emojis for both Zach and Jake, because I think that they deserve so much more care and love. Ooh. And also with Be Mindful and Wise, as I just looked at a new comment. There you go, guys. Let me know if you see that. Let's see some more of the comments, if I can. There you go. Blackwater Rust. It's definitely been better for me this year. Meeting a mental health counselor in 2021 has really helped me, especially. That is brilliant to hear, Blackwater Rust. I'm really pleased to hear that you are also one of these people who is doing your absolute best to grow stronger in yourself, and as well as to fight back through the difficulty. Sorry guys, I should be looking there, but I'm typing with sending the two same emojis for Blackwater Rust. I've got to turn the light on, guys. If there was some lagging going on just then, I do apologize. Right, let's see what else has been said. Sedition. I'm loving the latest Incantation album that was dropped recently and was one of the best records they've done since Diabolical Conquest. And new Cannibal Corpse is amazing as always, heard it early. Awesome. I know that Cannibal Corpse are releasing a new album, but not one of my favourite album titles. I think it's one of the weakest titles, like Gore Obsessed. But I need to come back to the band at some point. Mindful 28 again. I got one CD and one vinyl this month. I got Sheryl Crow's Tuesday Night Music Club on CD and Pearl Jam's Versus on vinyl. Versus is a very good album. Not as strong as 10, in my opinion. Excuse me. But it is one of my favourites. Mindful 28 again. I've been dealing with bad anxiety the past 2 months and had been dealing with depression for years before that. Sorry to hear that, Mindful 28. But you see the emoji that I've sent for you, as well as for the others I've mentioned. No worries, guys. Zach and Mindful and for Blackwater Rust as well. Billy Bishop again. Do you like symphonic metal bands like Therion and Nightwish? I really like Nightwish. They're another one of those bands that I would be very interested to purchase to build my collection. Therion is really good as well, but I'm not one of those metalheads that would be always get into a picky mood and select which band I prefer over the other because of this or that reason through one genre. Yes, favoritism is always open, but he is one of my favorites. So no disrespect to them as a band, but I think Nightwish some points could be a stronger band. Stop lagging, YouTube, piece of shit. Gonna change the picture quality for a bit. If there were any lagging or connection errors, please let me know in the chat, guys, because I'm noticing things on my screen as I look at the playback. Please let me know. I'm mainly excited for Dying Fetus. They are one of those other monstrous and insanely chaotic bands. I do like that band. They're not one of those other ones into the extremities of metal that I would listen to so often. But I do think they are well deserved to be highly respected and as one of the favorites for a lot of the metal fans. Midnight Social, I've recently stopped drinking alcohol. I want to have a tolerance break to see if it makes me feel better. I've been doing the same way, Midnight Social. Not that I was an alcoholic, but when it comes to going out and socializing, you sometimes just can't help but to feel, the choice of having just a drink or two, and yet grow your behavior into just some looseness and to, escape realism and stuff and have a blast. But yeah, I do think about myself occasionally through the health of mine. I'm not a big drinker, but I would always think to myself that I have to carry on hydrating myself in a better way, because alcoholism is not going to be a danger that would be highly toxic for me. And even if I go through a hangover, there's just a lot of moments when I get out of bed that I think to myself that I need to take a break from it all. As I said, I'm not an alcoholic. Oh, for fuck's sake. Stop it. Fucking connection. Sorry, guys. What I'm going to say is that I do think about my health, and I do what I can to keep a healthier and slim system of mine. That's why I would be really connected to be hydrating with a ton of water, and especially through a big salad, healthy diet, to a few vegan foods, and gym. Disconnect. Don't you dare disconnect. All right, there we go. Sorry about this, guys. I may have to stop the stream and try again if this is going to take the piss. This is really aggravating. But yeah, that's personally all I would like to say about that part through the alcoholism. If this is going to lag again, then I'm going to restart this. This is too good of a stream to absolutely not be wrecked. Do not fuck this up, YouTube. Stop taking the piss. Is it all good now? Midnight Social says it is. But if it disconnects again, then I will have to end it, and I will be back very quickly. So I'll do my best, guys. Zach Hurley, how's it going, dude? Hope you are well. I'm doing great. And as well as with the rest of us who have turned up in the chat, they are doing great. We're just, unfortunately, are going through a bit of a connection issue through YouTube's bullshit. So I may have to restart the stream again if it's going to lag really badly. So where am I? But I hope you will recover from your alcohol drinking midnight social. I do believe in you, and you will have to do all that you can to help yourself. Zach, what worst album do you like more? Virtual 11, Iron Maiden, or Demolition Racer by Judas Priest? I don't see Virtual as the worst Maiden album, although it's my second least favorite. To be honest, I haven't heard of Demolition from Judas Priest yet, so I can't really answer that question properly yet, Zach. But I will be returning to the band's discography. I think that's a question for the rest of you guys, if you want to answer his question. Which is worse to you? Demolition by Judas Priest or Virtual 11 from Iron Maiden? Blackwater Rust, I think we have a new Steven Wilson album on the way too. I didn't dig myself further into his own solo stuff yet because I'm still discovering Porcupine Tree. I am really, really fascinated and sorry guys, this lagging is really, really frustrating. Stay where you are, and I will be right back.